Hi there, I'm Eileen, the Mellow Astrologer, and I'm here today to chat with you about the new moon solar eclipse that is taking place very shortly, this Thursday, June 10th. So I did another video 2 weeks back about the full moon lunar eclipse, and that was on May 26th. It was the first of these two eclipses to mark the eclipse season, and I will link to it in the description so that you can have a look, because it's really important to understand that, first of all, eclipses happen in seasons. So we always have 2 or 3 eclipses that occur at 2-week intervals between each other, and they are almost always in the opposite signs of each other. And this is important because it's highlighting the polarity of the zodiac. And you've heard me in other videos talking about the polarity points. The polarity is important because it helps us balance out the deficiencies of a particular sign. So let's say that Capricorns are known for being cold and stern. Okay, of course, these are generalizations and stereotypes. The polarity is Cancer, which is nurturing and maternal. So you see how if you were experiencing a deficit of affection, you would look toward the polarity and try to embrace the qualities that would assist you in balancing. So the first eclipse on May 26th, again, was a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. The eclipse that's happening on Thursday is a new moon solar eclipse. If you've watched my other videos, you know that the new moon always occurs in the same sign as the sun. Therefore, the sun and the moon will be in the sign of Gemini for this eclipse. So let's talk about what that means. What is Gemini energy? Well, each zodiac sign represents some element of human experience that we are all having, that we're all experiencing. Okay, so in our astrological charts, we all have Mercury, which is the planet ruled by Gemini, or I actually said that backward. Mercury is the planet that rules the sign of Gemini. So each sign has a planetary ruler. So even if you are not a Gemini, you still have Mercury in your chart, and that is significant because Mercury is in Greek Roman mythology, Mercury, Hermes, was the god of communication, and he was the only god that was allowed to travel in between the underworld, hell, and heaven. So he had like unlimited VIP access because he was delivering messages to all these folks, right? And he had all the news and all the knowledge, all the gossip and the rumors, and knew all the juicy stories about everyone because he was interacting with people all the time. And so Mercurial energy, Gemini energy, is very friendly. It's very prone to being social and flirtatious and kind of superficial, really, because it's moving between different groups of people constantly, very frequently, right? It doesn't have, say, like a Scorpio, a very tight-knit, close group of friends that's like 1 or 2 people that you trust, that you have allowed into your world. The Gemini energy is very much like friends with everyone and able to move between circles of people pretty indiscriminately. But on a more spiritual, transcendent level, Mercury and Gemini are the archetypes of communication and also integrating information for survival, actually. So Gemini really wants to assess the external environment, to acquire as much knowledge as possible, to integrate that knowledge so that it can be more proficient in moving through life. Okay, so in order to move through life successfully, we have to know certain things. And just like, to not get a ticket from a popo as you're driving down the street, you have to be wearing your seatbelt and driving the speed limit. So that would be just a very basic example of the type of knowledge you need to move through your external environment, through your community. Mercury Gemini is very much about the community. It's local space. And from there, we are communicating what we know. So Mercury is also the archetype of communication, and multiple languages, this type of thing. Because again, if you think about Mercury as the god of communication, he's interacting with all people all the time, and including people from various cultures. Of course, in mythology, you wouldn't call them cultures, but that is how it plays out in the modern world, of course. So in terms of how this is affecting everybody with the eclipse, first of all, I used the wrong word there. It's not affecting us. Like when there is a celestial event, that celestial event is not kickstarting something in your life. It's not a cause and effect. It is actually a reflection of. Okay, so whatever transpires for us during a celestial event of any kind, but especially one as potent as an eclipse, we are getting the experience of the eclipse energy illuminating a dynamic that has already been at work in our lives, or a new dynamic that has been initiated in our lives. So it's not the eclipse's fault that something happened, but of course, language is limited. We can thank Mercury for that to some extent. And so we often use languaging that isn't completely accurate, right? So even I do this as an astrologer. I try to correct myself, but you'll hear me say, oh, well, Saturn is causing, or oh, the eclipse is causing. And in reality, I don't actually believe that. I believe that these events are reflections of what is transpiring in our lives. Because this eclipse is a new moon, we want to focus on initiating new cycles or projects, or planting seeds. Like all of the cheesy cliches about new beginnings apply here under the new moon. So if you want to do a ritual, great. If I'm not such a ritualistic person, but I do like to journal or otherwise set intentions, even if it only is a 5-minute meditation that I'm considering what I would like for the next cycle, that is equally relevant. We have a new moon every month. The moon moves really quickly. It moves every 2.5 days. It changes signs. And so every month we have a new moon. The moon will go into the sign that the sun is in, and then it will be a new moon. So when we have a new moon in Gemini, we want to think about the Gemini mercurial archetypes, which is communication, information, the obtaining of information, so being a student. And it also, like I said before, is a local space, our communities, and our siblings, and like our aunties and uncles, okay? So we can think about the various ways in which those themes are playing out in our lives currently. And you can set an intention for something that you would like to see develop. It's an eclipse, so the energy is super, super potent. You're going to be really sensitive. And I always recommend on eclipse days that you don't go out and party, you don't do any kind of hard drugs, don't do any drugs at all if you can avoid it, really, including alcohol, because our systems are more sensitive. And so anything that we're putting into our system is affecting us exponentially, right? And I also encourage that people take the day off if they can. I'm not encouraging people to avoid situations or people because it's an eclipse, but if you can take a down day so that whatever situation and conversations you need to deal with, you can do that when you're better rested and not feeling a little discombobulated. Mercury Gemini is also the archetype of anxiety and depression, because it is the mind, it's ruling the mind. So all things that have to do with the mind is Mercury's domain, Gemini's domain. And so, of course, mental illness falls under that. Anxiety, especially because racing thoughts, depression because of the depressed thoughts, the lowered vibration of the thoughts that we're having. And I would encourage you as a spiritual practice, as a prompt. So for the full moon lunar eclipse, I gave you the prompt of noticing where you are not being fully honest and in integrity, because Sagittarius is truth. And Sagittarius takes the broader version of truth. So Gemini is learning what's true for itself. So for example, because it rules local space in the community, what is true for, let's say, man who grows up in Senegal is not going to be the same truth as a woman who grows up in Florida, for example, right? So even though they can have personal truths, they're not universal truths. Sagittarius is about a universal truth versus the Gemini personal truth. Okay. So what I would like for you to consider, I actually have two different prompts for you. The first is around gossip. I live in a very small town and the rumor mill is alive and well, and you need to be very careful about what you say, who you say it to, when you say it, how you say it, etc., etc. And so I want everybody to reflect on, are your words in integrity? So last time you were reflecting on, am I lying? And it's just a variation on that same theme. So are you misusing speech and your communication in some way? In Buddhism, they would call that correct speech, right? Is your speech correct? I personally have a Gemini moon. I'm ruled by the planet Mercury. I have an intense amount of mercurial energy, which is why I'm here in front of you doing this, because it's the archetype of chatting and communication and delivering information, like journalism even. And I say that to you not to talk about myself, but to say that I'm very attuned to the energy of Mercury Gemini, and we have foot and mouth syndrome. We have loud mouths. People who are heavy, dominant mercurial Gemini energy often say things that they later regret. They say things in ways that they don't actually mean. They say things that as soon as it's left their mouth, they realize that's not even what I meant, oh God. And so this is what I want you to reflect on, because even though you might not be a Gemini or you might not be Mercury ruled like I am, again, you do still have Mercury in your chart. And all of these themes are being highlighted under this solar eclipse, okay? The second thing that I want you to consider is where you are anxious or depressed. Right now, especially with COVID, a significant number of us has been or currently is suffering from some form of mental illness, okay? For some of us, we're medicated. For others of us, we're able to medicate using meditation and other forms of, I'm not speaking well, but you know what I mean. Like it is existing on a spectrum. So it is more severe for some of us than others. But we have all gone through a very tumultuous 12 plus months in which we have had racing thoughts, anxiety about the future, anxiety about any number of things in our lives, right? So I want you to consider what the nature of your thoughts are. Like, what exactly are you thinking that's creating the anxiety and the depression? Because underneath all anxiety and depression, there is a thought, there is a belief that is triggering an emotional response that keeps us stuck in that energy of anxiety and depression. This is not a value judgment. This is just how the mind works, okay? So I want you to really hone in on, to focus in on, if you have anxiety or depression, or, any little stubborn thought that just plagues you over and over again, from I'm not good enough to why do I even bother to that's a pain in the ass, anything that you're thinking like that, bring awareness to it. And under the new moon on the 10th, Thursday, this eclipse, really surrender that. Ask that it be transformed under this big celestial energy, that you start on a fresh foot with whatever it is that you have been struggling with in terms of your communication or your mental health. This could even be what is it that you would like to learn that you've been avoiding or has been difficult, because Mercury is about being the student and learning. So this is a request that you're making or a prayer that you're making, and it's not with the anticipation that the problem is going to be resolved immediately. It's with the anticipation that the moon, the solar eclipse, the new moon solar eclipse, is going to shed light on this issue so that you can move forward with greater clarity, okay? So again, it's a new moon solar eclipse on Thursday, June 10th. It's the second of our first eclipse season in 2021. The first eclipse was a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius, and it took place on Wednesday, May 26th. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And I do want to hear from you. So several of you texted me or commented on YouTube about, ooh, I did catch myself telling a lie, and here's why. So please, please, please comment below and let me know what you think about the video, how it's playing out in your life, and of course, if you have any questions, I want to hear them. So thank you so much. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you for letting me do what I love most. Ciao.